Hey guys, this is Luke from Make Masking Optional. I'm here with Kristen Gilfeather, trustee candidate for District 5 for Billings Public Schools. You're not going to want to miss this interview. We're going to move again to a new topic, budgets. Tell us about your experience with budgets, maybe on the boards that you've served on, or maybe, I don't know if you have a budget for your department that you're in healthcare or personally or anything, just budgets, a high level.
Sure. So my experience with budgets, I'm a healthcare leader, and in that role for the last 10 years, I have built annual departmental budgets. I certainly have a set of guidelines on, where to start, and then, where to make cuts. I don't think I've ever created a budget for my department where I haven't had to give something up. I've always
the government. It's all about to change.
I know. So I've always had to give something up. So for me, going over budget was never an option. It was never allowed. It was never approved. And even usually, if I tried to carry forward a budget from the prior year, I would still have to find a way to reduce it somehow. Stewardship is one of our values at the hospital that I work at. And so I've always had just the mind of a steward. Like, how do you take care of your resources? And they could be financial resources or they could be your people resources. Right. And you just have to be good stewards of those. And it certainly requires a lot of extra thought and consideration in how you come up with your final product. But there was just some non-negotiables that I would never be able to say, I know you told me to cut my budget, but I actually need to increase it. And I would have to be very specific to why. If I needed to buy chairs, I would say I need 10 chairs and they're $250 a piece. And so I had to be very specific. There was no vague items that made it into my budget. If it didn't make it in, I had to keep a list of the things and add them to next year's budget and see what we could get approved. So I am familiar with that a little bit. I'm also familiar with my work as a board member for Healthcare Financial Management. We would plan events. Some of those events were quite large conferences that we would hold throughout the state. And really the same thing. We would be given a budget. We'd be responsible for setting that budget and staying within that budget. Certainly hard decisions had to be made because of those budgets as well, but it's just what you have to do when you have resources like money that truly don't grow on trees.
It's a finite resource.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, along those lines then, in a period of reduced financial resources for most of Montana's school districts, except for besides all the COVID money, what are your priorities for education for the school districts? Like, what do you think would be like the most important thing, or is there a way that you would rank? I mean, I know you don't have all of everything in front of you right now. Have you thought about that? Do you have any?
I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about it, and here's why. School budgets are clearly different than my healthcare budgets. And before I really feel like I can start looking and understanding and really forming ideas of how to make improvements, I think I need a better understanding of the school budgets. What's really great is I have lots of resources of people and experience serving on school boards that I would really like to tap into just to try and broaden my knowledge base on school budgets. Because surely they are confusing, but I'm also sure that there's a way to weed through that and to instead of being in a perpetual state of needing more, the school does need to figure out a way how to operate within its budget.
Good. We're going to shift gears to the topic that's kind of winding down, but still on everyone's mind, COVID. And we seem to be in a decline currently after going through the Omicron surge. If you were, hypothetically speaking, a board member during these past 2 years, would you have voted against the mandates for masks on school children and teachers?
Yeah, I would have, and I have quite a few reasons why. And without you just kind of like restating or everything, but working in healthcare, there was a lot of things that we didn't know when COVID started. And
March 2020 was a different time. Yeah.
Absolutely. and we didn't know things. And it makes a whole lot of sense to implement most restrictive measures when you don't know things. The problem that I have is that as we started to know things, it's almost like we just pretended that they didn't matter. And I saw it at the hospital. It was frustrating at the hospital as well. And knowing what we knew at the start of this 2021 school year, I absolutely would have voted against mandates. It's actually hard for me to remember where my head was at in the 2020 fall school year. I think that there may have been a point in time where we still didn't know enough. August of 2020, but certainly mid-year we knew a lot better and we didn't do anything to change it.
Yeah.
And that's quite frustrating to see that adjustments weren't made when the knowledge increased. And then of course to use only the data that supported the result.
Yeah.
To mask the kids.
Well, I don't think that they used data.
No.
What I could find. They used expert opinions. We're listening to the experts. We're trusting the experts. We've reached out and made connections with the experts. That's what we heard a lot of. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I think the disconnect comes from. And to your point, in fall of 2021, in fall of 2020, all of us wanted our kids back in school.
Yep.
And so we tried to be good neighbors. We tried to all say, you know what, it's important that kids are in school. They were shut down from March 2020 through the end of the year, and we need to be back in person. And to Superintendent Upham's credit, he made a priority to get the schools open and keep them open. Mm-hmm. We disagree with how he handled a lot, but we do agree that he did make an effort to get the schools open and keep them open when a lot of other places were not making a priority on that. Now, we've moved forward in 2021. We were good neighbors, but like you said, the science and the data started to catch up, and we refused to bend on that at all.
I think we moved to the next. So I think she covered that pretty good.
I think people are done with COVID.
Yep. So let's.
I will say though, I was so encouraged to hear one board member say we should stop talking about COVID.
And the looks that she received. Stop making excuses. Stop talking about COVID.
There's that. And then the other thing that I do want to address, if elected, is this emergency declaration that apparently School District 2 is under. I can't find any documents of when that was voted in or...
It was in July of 2020. And when it was voted in, the trustee asked if we should put a end date on it. And the legal counsel said, no, I don't think you should.
Oh, gosh, that was going to be my question. I'm like, when does it expire?
And I've asked for the documents, what powers are granted to them by this. And I haven't been given any answer from the district. So we don't know what powers are granted by them. We don't know what framework they have. We're in a perpetual emergency from July 2020 till now with no end in sight. And there's never even been discussion about repealing that emergency. The state of Montana is not in an emergency.
Oh, okay. Let's move.
I could talk on that.
Okay. So we kind of talked about curriculum, it feels like a little bit on another question, but what part do you think parents have with the curriculum and what the teachers are teaching, should parents have any say in the curriculum?
Do the parents have a right to know what's
Yeah.
in the curriculum?
There you go.
Yeah, I absolutely think parents have a right to know what's in the curriculum. And I think that there are subjects that should never, ever be touched on in school. And I'll just use this for an example. I'm a Christian, but I don't believe that Christianity should be taught in school because I want to be able to make sure that I teach that to my kids, right? Whether it's through me, through the church I trust. If a teacher is an atheist, I don't want them teaching Christianity because it's in the curriculum. The same goes for other things. In government, they should teach all of it and not just what suits that particular teacher's preferences. Because we all have different experiences and backgrounds and reasons for how we come to our belief system, that when it comes to those controversial or touchy subjects, I think parents need to have a say in how things are taught and what's taught. Does that mean I think parents should, pick and choose the curriculum? No. We're not teachers. Like, we do rely on teachers to have a better expertise and understanding of what to be taught and how things should be taught. But I don't think it's just a open door to teach anything that the school wants to teach.
Okay. I think
that covers that one.
yeah, that covers all those questions.
So right now, CRT, critical race theory, is a hot topic. What's your knowledge or understanding of CRT, and what is your position on CRT?
So my knowledge is rather limited on CRT, but really, I have a basic understanding of, how you can't fight racism by teaching racism. What was it? What Martin Luther King said, darkness can't drive out darkness, only light can do that. And so I think there's got to be a better way to teach about our country's really ugly history that doesn't play people of color as victims. They were victims at one point in time in our history, but they're amazing in today's society. They are productive. They, people of different races and cultures and backgrounds aren't limited because of the color of their skin today. And if we teach that they are, I don't think we're raising our kids in the right light. I think we need to shine a light on how like the positive aspects of different races and different cultures and different backgrounds.
You brought up our nation's past, and it's a sad evil, a stain on society, the racism that has occurred in the past. Do you think racism still exists today?
So I do think it exists today. I don't think it exists as broadly as CRT teaches it to be, if that makes sense. In Montana, I grew up in Montana. Racism looks different in Montana than it looks in other states, I'm sure. And I do think that it exists, and that just hurts my heart that it does. That anybody has to deal with it or grow up dealing with it. It's wrong, and I don't think you can't justify it to be right. But teaching kids that they're racist just because they were born a certain way isn't going to fix this wrong either. And just teaching kids to be good humans is a far better approach. They need to understand what racism looked like, in the height of it. but not teaching it just for sake of, I don't know. Like,
No, I think you're doing good.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's more than one way to teach about racism or the history of racism in our schools?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's the point here, is not that it's not that we're racist and we feel, bigoted or whatever, and that's why we're afraid of CRT. It's that I think that there's multiple ways that we can teach children of all, nationalities and whatever creeds without just doing it one way.
Yeah, and the way that CRT does it is just such a, I'm not a fan of the victim narratives.
Regardless of what it is, whether it's around.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Even in, where I work, associate to associate conflicts, there's often someone who's a victim and someone who's a villain. And I think being a victim today is a little bit of a choice. Again, another one of my values. I might not be able to change every situation, but I can choose who I'm going to be. I can choose to be a victim, or I can choose to be the better person. And maybe that isn't true historically, but I think for a large part it is true today.
That's good.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Guys, you had a chance to hear from Kristen Gilfeather. She's the candidate for Zone 5, Billings Public Schools. Don't forget to vote May 2nd in the election. Is that the right date?
May 3rd.
May 3rd. May 3rd. Vote by May 2nd so you're not late. It's a mail-in election. Kristen Gilfeather, you heard it tonight from her own words. I didn't plant seeds. I didn't say anything. Kristen Gilfeather, she is pro-parent. She's pro-children. She's pro-public education. She's pro-teacher. This is a candidate that you can believe in, and I think you should. She's proven tonight that she deserves your vote for Billings Public Schools. Kristen Gilfeather, good luck in the election. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.